Joe Zekas from YoChicago.com. I'm at 433 West Briar in Lakeview with Ron on my right.
Hi.
And Tony on my left. And Ron and Tony are owners here and bought before the most recent ownership change. So give me some idea of what factors prompted you to pick Lakeview to begin with, and 433 Briar in particular.
I like 433 Briar. I happened to, this was the first place I looked at in July of '08. There was an open house. We were here just wanting to get to know neighborhoods. We transferred from Northern Virginia. And we were here one weekend just exploring neighborhoods because we didn't know anything about Chicago. And Ron had to fly back to Virginia, and I was walking and I saw an open house sign, and I came in here. And this was the very, very, very first place I looked at, and it became the benchmark against everything else that I looked at.
Did you look at quite a few other options?
Oh, after the fact we did, and as Tony said, this became the benchmark. And one of the things, we moved a number of times, and every city seems to have a type of housing that's kind of unique and to that city. And in Chicago, it's, I don't know if they call it the railroad thing with one room behind the other.
Railroad flats. And
to us, that became kind of boring looking at that. And so one of the things that was really attractive to Tony and to me after the fact was the floor plan just being so different than everything else we saw in Chicago.
We've had about 7 or 8 former residences, and they've all been single-family homes.
Oh, that's right. This is our first urban experience as well with complicated
We wanted an
things.
urban experience, and we liked the neighborhood, the ability to walk to restaurants and coffee shops. Transportation's amazing. Right here on the corner are the buses that take us to the Blue Line if we need to get to the airport or anywhere. So it's easy to get around. It's a fun neighborhood. It's lively. Even in the dead of winter, you just wrap up and go have a coffee. It was really intense. But the building was the attraction.
Yeah.
The building was the first attraction.
so you're pretty tough critics if you've owned half a dozen single families before, lived in cities.
Well, one of the things we like too, I think, is that it's just, not only is it not that railroad style that we were not enamored with, it's also the fact that this is not just a flat front unit. As you see, it's different. There's different, we have 3 different exposures. That was enticing because it wasn't predictable.
But to address the fact that you would assume we were pretty savvy buyers, we weren't when it came to urban. All of our purchasing has been in the suburban setting. So we were pretty smart with looking at single family houses, but looking in the urban setting, there were a lot of things that we just didn't know. So we kind of dove in blindly. And
Give me an illustration to help other people who might not know those things.
well, so what's life going to be like in a condo? We had no way of knowing. So one of the things we were concerned about I was more concerned about was noise. How much noise is it going to be? So we quickly learned that you want to make sure that there's cement between the flooring, which this building had, and that in a neighborhood. Within a neighborhood, there's the personality of the street too. So you could, after the fact, I learned that when you're really shopping. If we were shopping again today, we would end up back in this building. But part of the things that I would look for would be the street as well as the neighborhood.
What is the personality of this street?
This one, the demographic is really young. It's a very young community. So that and one of the things you have to adjust to is congestion. Someone said to us once, referred to this as what, a point of what?
A friend of ours who lives north of us, we commented once about how when we have guests come for the evening, they have trouble finding parking. And this friend of ours said, and it was obvious to him, he said, you live in the destination. We're all coming from wherever. He said, we're coming to you. This is the destination. Not necessarily, we're not the destination, but this neighborhood, the area is the destination because of restaurants and bars and coffee shops and shops. And
how did you solve the parking issue, which has been an issue for some of the buyers here?
We purchased parking.
We have we bought a parking unit for ourselves. And our guests, they've always found parking. It's never been that
yeah.
big of a deal. And there are garages, paid garages just at the end of the street and around the corner. That's really surprisingly.
And because our friends are city dwellers, many of them use public transportation or a taxi. But we bought garage parking directly across the street here, so. That's probably going to turn out to be as good an investment as our unit, if not better. I mean, really, really. And for marketing, for resale, I'm sure that having a garage is going to be invaluable.
You just brought up an issue that has been an issue you bought 2 years ago when the market was very different and the prices were very different.
Clearly, yeah.
What's it been like adjusting to the differential that's taken place in the meantime?
But don't forget, we sold at the same time. We sold a single-family home in Northern Virginia, just outside of Washington, D.C., so we were successful there. Yes, the prices were higher here when we bought,
right?
But we also bought in the month of December. And so that allowed us the opportunity to do some very good negotiating on not only the price, but on, remember, when we moved in here, there was nothing here. There was no kitchen, the bathrooms had no, there was nothing in the bathrooms, just four walls. The kitchen, we had to pick our kitchen, pick our fixtures for the bathroom, the tiles that we wanted on the walls. So it was barren. So because we were buying in the month of December, we were able to negotiate higher end items as well as negotiate the price. So that was a success for us.
But that said, clearly from the time we bought, the prices have come down. But everything's relative. If we were moving today, the fact is, wherever we'd be moving, the prices have come down too. And like Tony said, thank God we made money on previous purchases. So there's a point where you just have to stop being greedy and say, while I would love to be able to sell this and make a profit, if we had to sell today, which is not the case, we wouldn't. So that's just a reality that many people are dealing with.
What impact have the new owners had in the building?
Oh, it's remarkable. Tony and I were discussing this earlier. By far, the greatest impact, other than what you physically see, is the attitude within the building. And it's almost like the building in the past. I think everyone knows that investment in real estate is one of your biggest investments. So when it looks like you're tanking and you didn't do a good job in your investment, you didn't make a wise choice, and we all had reason to believe that early on, when the old developer was here, there's a panic, and with panic comes anger and negativity, and it was just a cynical environment. It really was. Now what's happened is, as the end result, we later found out, again, we weren't savvy buyers when you come into it with the urban setting in Chicago, so we didn't know that probably wasn't a really good idea to buy in a less than half developed building. We just didn't. So we took that risk, and it looked like it was a bad decision for a long time. Good news, bad news thing is, the transition now, it is just, you can feel in the building the optimism, and it's positive. The cosmetic changes alone are just remarkable. It's just and the sales are showing it too. Belgravia is being very successful in marketing this building for the obvious reasons. It's got a lot of attractive things that other buildings just don't have. But the greatest change by far is just the optimism in the building.
What was happening is when Belgravia was in negotiations to take the vacant units, they immediately started communicating with all the existing owners, and just that communication alone brought sense of comfort. They communicated about what their plans would be. They even started working on some cosmetic changes before the transaction was actually completed. So there was a lot of comfort in working with him. But it was the communication, the willingness to talk to us. We had email addresses, phone numbers, names, faces. They had meetings down in one of the model unit. So we got to meet and talk to them face to face. Unfortunately, that communication was lacking with the former developer for whatever reason. But this one's, Belgravia brought a sense of comfort because of that. And then we immediately started to see not only cosmetic changes, but things that you can't see, but they were telling us, and inspectors were telling us that things were being done behind the scenes. The infrastructure items, there were some plumbing issues down in the basement. There were some issues with the elevators that had to be repaired, and it had to be inspected. Some things on the roof that had to be taken care of and then inspected. So we were so all that infrastructure activity was happening.
And in addressing the infrastructure, what everyone in the building assumed was that the developer, because they ran out of money, had shortchanged us on some of the work that they'd done. So we were panicky that there were going to be things inside the walls that were really bad. Well, Belgravia, being the savvy group that they've made investments over the years. They inspected this thoroughly, and we found out that the bad news wasn't so bad. It just wasn't. It just wasn't so bad at all. And and via the internet, we were able to investigate the reputation of Belgravia, and it was flawless. So they were our salvation. We really knew that it was going to be okay. We knew we were going to lose money because the units are going to have to sell for a lower price. We were going to lose value.
But that's a function of the economy.
Exactly.
Not
as
a
well
function of
as
this
other
building.
things. But I got to tell you, it's apparent wherever you go in the building that, and with the sales that Belgravia brought with it, reputation that people are comfortable with. They really are. Yeah.
One final question for you. Have you found a favorite restaurant in the neighborhood?
Man, there's one.
Too many. Every night we go out. Every time we go out. Last night we went out with friends to a restaurant we had never been to. I don't know.
The Chicago Oven Grinder. Have you been?
Pizza and Oven Grinder. We had never been there. And friends recommended it.
I was there in 1974 when I first moved to Chicago.
Oh, yeah, right. Have you been there
The one
since?
down on Clark Street?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly.
In a townhouse.
You know what the problem is when you have so
It's
many choices.
across the street from the site of the St. Valentine's Day Massacre.
Yes.
That's what they say on their menu. It's what part of their
They still
stick.
say that on
Yeah,
there?
yeah. But there's so many choices that you've really become overwhelmed at times. But clearly Chicago has a choice of food. It really does.
Yeah, food and places to go, and there's living here. You were talking about the neighborhood. Being able to one block over is Lincoln Park, and in the spring and summer, it's a nice walk along the beaches, along the water down to Michigan Avenue. It's quite doable. So in the wintertime, we use the gym that Belgravia put into our basement here. They put a lovely gym in. And in the summertime, you've got Lincoln Park right there, right one block over.
You mentioned the personality of the street is young. Is it a frat scene young?
No.
Professionals. It's
Yeah,
all professionals.
yeah. As you get older, what you consider young, it's relative, isn't it? So there are people that probably in there. Yeah, there's a very young demographic. It's a mix. It's clearly a mixed bag.
And there are retired people here
Yeah.
in the building also, as well as young couples. It's very nice. We got a adorable
really
little
is.
baby downstairs, and to the retirees.